In this clip, we'll witness Carla Sands, a supporter of Donald Trump, spend much of the initial part of the interview fervently praising him. However, when faced with tough, probing questions, she starts to crumble and visibly panics, unable to respond appropriately. As always, let's watch the entire video and I'll share my thoughts at the conclusion.
Hey, good morning, Kate. Nice to see you.
Great to have you with us. This isn't the first time that President Trump has talked of extra financial sanctions against Russia. What makes it different this time?
Well, it's the amount, first of all, right? 100% tariffs on energy, Russian energy, if a peace deal isn't done within, I think, 50 days, is a really big deal. It does ratchet up the pressure on Putin. I hope that Putin takes this as a real warning and real consequences. I mean, there are people, it's bipartisan in the US Congress that are actually, or Senate, trying to pass 500% tariffs that, listen, I think that if he can blame it on the US president and Congress, Putin can maybe find an off-ramp, I'm hoping so, to end the killing and just make it stop.
But what do you think is the logic behind only introducing these tariffs in 50 days if there is no progress made, when Donald Trump himself has said President Putin talks a good game, he makes lots of promises, but he always pulls back eventually? What's to stop him doing it again this time?
Well, if he does it, I think there will be real consequences. President Trump knows that we have the greatest military in the world. The war would stop tomorrow if China just stopped funding and aiding Russia in this war. It would end tomorrow. So President Trump, I believe, holds all the cards. It's just a matter of convincing Vladimir Putin of this and the Russian leadership. I think it has to happen. The killing has to stop. It's a tragedy on both sides. It would never have happened with a strong US president in the White House. But this was Joe Biden, pulling out of Afghanistan, and the whole world seeing the most disastrous withdrawal in the history of, well, certainly the United States, with the loss of life and the people falling off the airplanes. We saw him say, Nord Stream 2, that Russian gas pipeline, I'm not going to sanction it. So giving Putin another benefit. And then the third thing Vladimir Putin saw was when Joe Biden stood at the podium and said, well, if there's a minor incursion or two into Ukraine, we're going to let it go. And so he basically opened the door and ushered Vladimir Putin into Ukraine. I know that President Trump is the peace president. He's working hard to get to peace. So is his team. But we need other willing partners, and that's going to come down to the Ukraine leadership and the Russian leadership.
I mean, you say Biden opened the door to what's happened in Ukraine, but the reality and the truth of this is that Donald Trump has spent a long time talking to Vladimir Putin, listening to him, giving him the benefit of the doubt, talking him up in some cases in ways that have made other leaders in Western nations feel deeply, deeply uncomfortable. And although he is talking tough now, he's not actually taking any action. Many people say, well, Trump talks a good game, but in the end, he always pulls back, a bit like Putin. I mean, why would anybody believe that these sanctions will ever happen this time around when they haven't happened in the past?
Well, first of all, President Trump is the greatest negotiator as a leader in the world today, but he's also the greatest U.S. president in modern times as a negotiator. So they can say all they want. These leaders around the world weren't even negotiating with Putin and Zelensky to get to a peace.
But it's not working. It's not working, is it? That's the problem.
Well, it's not working like a snap of a fingers. That is true. But is it actually going to work? Yes, I believe it's going to work. We do not want to get pulled into a war that expands and becomes World War III. We reject American young men and women dying on a battlefield in a war that is not ours. This is Europe's war. Europe should take care of it. President Trump now has an agreement that EU, NATO countries are going to be paying 100% of the cost of things like advanced weapon systems, perhaps HIMARS, although that's what I've heard. I haven't seen it in writing. But there are going to be advanced weapons supplied to the Ukrainian military by the EU allies, but it's going to be EU-based American equipment that they're going to pay for. I guess it's okay as a sort of push, a nudge to Putin to say, look, we're not going to mess around. This is going to end very, very badly for Russia if they don't stop.
Carla Sands' interview highlights just how far some people will go to staunchly defend Donald Trump, even when faced with tough questions that reveal weaknesses in their arguments. Her initial praise for Trump as an excellent negotiator and a president of peace quickly disintegrates when scrutinized regarding the effectiveness of his policies. The claim that Trump holds leverage in talks with Putin is contradicted by ongoing conflicts and unsuccessful diplomatic endeavors. Sands attempts to pin the blame on Joe Biden, asserting that his actions paved the way for Putin's aggressions. However, this storyline overlooks Trump's own history of interacting with Putin, which has produced little in terms of concrete accomplishments. The flaws in her reasoning become apparent when she struggles to explain why Trump's past promises of peace and sanctions have not come to fruition. Additionally, her constant assertions about Trump's negotiating prowess seem increasingly insubstantial when contrasted with the absence of meaningful achievements during his presidency. This inconsistency underscores a larger problem: the gap between Trump's bombastic talk and the real results of his foreign policy. Sands' visible anxiety when pressed for details reveals a more profound truth about her support for Trump. It often seems less like a reasoned endorsement and more like unwavering loyalty to an individual whose actions do not match the ideals she claims to uphold. Her difficulty in crafting a coherent defense only increases the skepticism surrounding Trump's leadership and his approach to global affairs. Ultimately, this interview underscores the need for political loyalty to be grounded in accountability and outcomes, not just rhetoric. As we ponder these discussions, it's vital to insist on fact-based arguments that prioritize the welfare of those impacted by these policies. Critically engaging with such narratives is essential for nurturing a political climate that values truth and integrity. Let's continue to push for constructive dialogue that challenges authority and seeks genuine solutions to complex challenges.
So do you believe this is a significant moment in the relationship between Donald Trump and President Putin, which, as I said before, has been warm and even cordial at points? Do you think that is now, that there has been a shift and there is a change in the relationship between these two men?
Well, when you have someone that you're negotiating on a deal with and they keep retrading you, like they say, yeah, the deal's done, they shake your hand and then they retrade. It is kind of frustrating. It makes it hard to do a deal with that person or that company. I don't like it personally. I'm for sure that Donald Trump doesn't like it. And so, look, Vladimir Putin's done this with a lot of US presidents. But Donald Trump has, Vladimir Putin has met his match in Donald Trump. There will be some good place that we get to. It's just a shame that it's not quicker to end the killing, the loss of life on both sides. That's what I think the American people for sure want to see. And that's bipartisan. They don't want us to get into these forever wars. And like I said earlier, this is Europe's war. Europe now is arming. Europe is becoming stronger. We need Europe to have a stronger economy as well. So we've got a ways to go. The net zero policy in Europe, but also in the UK, is very concerning. To have a strong economy, you have to have inexpensive and abundant energy. And so as we see the deindustrialization of Europe, we are concerned. We want to see prosperity in the UK and in Europe.
Do you think Trump has had enough? You know him, you know his character. Do you think this is a line in the sand?
I think he's going to get to a deal. I don't know how he'll do it, but he always has a few more cards up his sleeve that he can pull out when needed. Those big sanctions, those will bite. And the pressure on the consumers of Russian gas, that's going to be very, very tough. So that, we'll see at the end of the day where this ends up. But I think we're in the middle of this story. We don't know the ending yet, when it ends and how it ends. And my hope is that we end in peace and an end to the loss of life.
Carla Sands.
Well, to start with, I've got absolutely no sympathy for Donald Trump. And even Carla Sands sits here and spouts Trump's nonsense, which, in my opinion, is a result of Trump setting himself up for the backlash he's facing now. Remember those lofty promises he made on the campaign trail, like claiming he could end the war in 24 hours or within 100 days? Yet here we are, months into his presidency, and there's still no significant progress. Let's be completely honest, Putin is leading Trump on a wild goose chase. This situation has only highlighted the disparity between Trump's claims and the actual facts. Trump always talked about having a special relationship with Putin, but reality tells a different story. What did Kamala Harris say on the campaign trail? It's easy to flatter Donald Trump, and that's precisely what Putin has done over the years, making Trump believe they had a solid bond when they didn't. If we're being fully transparent, Trump's approaches to Putin have accomplished next to nothing, and Putin keeps dismissing any mediation or peace proposals from Trump. It's clear that Putin doesn't respect Trump, who seems oblivious to the whole charade. Yet, folks like Carlo continue to address the American public, blindly showering Trump with praise, almost dictatorially, claiming he's the best negotiator, the best president, but we've yet to see evidence supporting those claims. If anything, right now, he seems far from it, especially when discussing crucial issues like trials or other serious topics as if they were trivial. It's bizarre, and it's hardly shocking when someone like Carla Sands supports Trump, even when it's impossible to defend him. You can tell she doesn't truly believe what she's saying, especially when she hesitates or stumbles over her words when questioned. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm always eager to hear your perspectives, ideas, and feedback. Thank you so much. While you're there, do me a quick favor. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. Special thanks go out to Times Radio and the channel Just a Confused Brit for the footage used in this video. I appreciate all of you, and I'll catch you in the next one.